Hello, this is the magic yarn. Let's learn how to weave a strawberry with a styling needle today. First of all, the needle is raised in a ring. After the needle lifting is complete, lock the needle and set up the needle. Next, a short needle is knitted around the coil. A total of 6 short needles are knitted. After the 6 stitches are complete, tighten the coil. Then we start knitting the second row on top of the first stitch. Knit 2 short needles on top of the first one. Make a few buckles on the first short pin. Then, on top of each stitch, 2 short stitches are knitted, and a total of 6 stitches are added to this row, and 12 short stitches are knitted. After the second row is completed, a lead 8 stitches are knitted on the first stitch. The third row locks to stitches and knits a medium length to stitch styling needle on the first stitch. Then lock 1 needle and weave a modeling needle with 3 needles in the middle and long needles at the next needle. The styling needle is completed, and the lock is a needle. Then, at intervals, knit a medium-length 3-needle styling needle at the next stitch. Then lock a stitch and repeat the pattern knitting. At the end of the third row, at the beginning of the second standing pin, knit a pull-out needle. Then weave the fourth row. Knit 2 pins first. Then lock the 2 pins. Add the lock pin behind the styling pin. Knitting medium and long needles with 2 stitches. Then lock the pin. Next, knit a medium-length 3-needle styling needle at the next lock pin. Lock the stitch after the styling needle is braided. Then add another stitch in the same position. Knit another styling needle. Then go to the next lock pin. Knit a styling needle. At the next lock pin, knit 2 styling needles. In this way, 1 more needle is added every other needle for a total of 3 additional needles. At the end of the 4th row, at the beginning of the standing pin, the needle is withdrawn. In the 5th row, 2 extraction needles are braided first. Then lock the pins, knitting medium and long needles, 2 needle styling needles. Lock a pin. Next, at the next locking needle, knit a medium length needle, a 3 needle styling needle. Lock a pin. Then add another stitch to the next one. Knit 2 styling needles. After that, 1 pin is added to each of the 2 stitches for a total of 3 stitches. At the end of the 5th row, at the beginning of the standing pin, the needle is withdrawn. In the 6th line, 2 extraction needles are braided first. Then lock 2 stitches and knit a styling stitch. Lock a pin. At the next stitch, knit 2 styling pins. One stitch per grid in the back, add 1 stitch, and add a total of 6 stitches. The 6th row concludes with a pull-out needle at the beginning of the startup needle. Then weave the 7th row. Knit 2 pins first. Then lock 2 stitches. This row of needles is not added or subtracted, and a styling needle is knitted at each lock pin. At the end of the 7th row, a pin is also knitted. In the 8th line, make up 2 extraction needles first. Then lock the 2 pins. This line requires minus knitting. Now at the first stitch, knit a styling needle. Lock a pin. Then subtract 1 pin from the 2 pins below. Now at the next stitch, hook the line 3 times. Then do the same 3 times at the next stitch. Then hook the line and pull the line out all at once. In this way, knit a 2 needle and 1 needle, and then lock 1 needle. Next stitch, knit a styling needle. Then cut another stitch below. One stitch per grid, minus 1 stitch, for a total of 6 stitches. At the end of the 8th row, a lead 8 stitches are also knitted. In the 9th line, 2 introductory 8 needles are braided first. Then lock the two pins. Knit a styling needle at the position of the first needle. Lock a pin. Knit a styling needle at the position of the second needle. Lock a pin. Then follow the next 2 stitches. Subtract 1 shot. Then every 2 stitches, subtract 1 stitch. At the end of the 9th row, a pull-out needle is knitted. Then the 10th row locks a stitch, a standing needle, and knitting a short needle. Knit a short needle on each lock pin and each styling pin. Weave a loop. At the end of the 10th row, at the beginning of the standing pin, knit a pull-out needle. In the last row, lock a pin to stand up the pin. Knit short needles, 2 needles and 1 needle. At the end of the 11th row, knit a draw needle at the beginning of the standing needle and cut the thread. Finally, the inside of the main body is filled with cotton, and then we start weaving the parts of the leaves. The part of the leaf is first needled in a ring. After the needle lifting is complete, Lock the 3 needles and stand up the needle. Then wrap the coil and knit a long needle, plus the starting standing pin. A total of 18 long needles are knitted. After the 18 long needles are braided, tighten the coil. Finally, we knit a pull-out needle at the 3rd standing needle at the beginning. Then knit the 2nd row of lock 5 stitches. Return to the penultimate lock pin and knit a pull-out pin. The next needle is knitted with a short needle. The next needle is knitted with a medium-length needle. The next needle is knitted with a long needle. Then 2 stitches apart, at the 3rd stitch, knit a pull-out needle. Then lock the 5 pins. The same method of weaving. Then the penultimate shot, knit a pull-out needle. Then knit a short needle. The next needle is knitted with medium and long needles. Finally, knit a long needle. Then 2 more stitches are placed on the next stitch. Knit a pull-out needle. Repeat pattern weaving later. After the last stitch is braided, the thread is cut. Then let's start again. Lock the edge and start the needle. Lock 9 pins. Reverse the penultimate stitch. Knitting the pull-out needle. The fabric is then hooked to the back of the blade. Next, we started sewing the blades onto the subject. In this way, our strawberry with date-shaped needlework is complete. Okay, that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.